Um,
Oh, but then the TV is turned off.
so when he logged out, it logged all of us out.
6 threes.
This is like our first meeting again. I'm in Clear Creek for the first time. So we got new technology that we are learning.
Okay.
There's one.
2.
Okay, there we go. We got 2 out of 3. Okay,
Okay.
we'll take it.
And it's in there and it's not muted and it looks like people can hear us. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Well, it seemed to me.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea Short Miller, or Dr. Chelsea. I serve as the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Abatement Council, referred to as Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council, or GROC. Today we have a full council meeting with a pretty big agenda, but not too daunting. So we are going to start with attendance to make sure that we have quorum. If I could just get a verbal hello when I call your name, please. Commissioner Dahlkemper.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner Marlin is in the room. Commissioner Hollingsworth or Commissioner Aiken. I think I saw Jeff come in online. Michael Prang or Luke Parr. Thank you, Laura. Yes. So Jeff was supposed to be here on time though, and I did see him come in. So if we just check the participant list and then keep an eye for when Commissioner Hollingsworth comes back. Sheriff Armstrong or Greg Demo.
Good morning, Under Sheriff Demo here.
Mayor Bud is not here. Do we have Sophia in the room? Janine
I'm here.
is in the room with us. Troy Cooper or Tori Jantz.
Tori Jantz here.
Thank you. Dr. Story or Michael Miller.
This is Sarah. I'm sorry, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Dr. Ryan is in the room. And then this is gonna be, it's Marie Larson.
Hi, yes, Marie is here.
Sorry, Marie, I forgot to update this. There we go. Mary Berger, Barb Weinstein. Barb is gonna be late, but is coming. Sarah Casano or Dr. Gillingham?
I'm here. Yep.
Oh, right here.
That's okay, yeah.
This is my first time actually meeting you in person.
Oh, that's it right
Yes. Oh my gosh. Hello. Janie Barker or David Jocelyn? Kristen Heath or Judge Jones?
Good afternoon. This is Kristen. I'm here.
Thank you. I think Janie is going to be late as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is Erica Jean in the room? How many do I need for quorum? I apologize.
You only need 9. You got there.
Okay, we got 10. Yes. And I made a note so I won't forget next time.
Kelsey,
Thank
I'm
you.
on the meeting. I don't know if I'm connected. I can hear you guys. So
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. So we got 11.
is that you can hear me, Jeff?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, if you just want to mute now, thanks.
And Chelsea, it's
and
Heidi
then-
McCollum. I don't know if you had called my name, but I am also online as well.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Thank you. You as
course.
well. And then I just dropped the link in the chat for non-voting member attendance. I did see Linda's comment that the link was not working. So governance, we have approval of the August 25th meeting minutes.
I'll move we approve the August 25th meeting minutes. This is George.
And this is
You're gonna have
Leslie,
to
I'll
talk.
second.
You're gonna have to raise your voice because I think it's like in the ceiling.
Microphones are right here.
Okay. So George first, Leslie second. We'll vote by opposition in the chat or in the room. Perfect. The meeting minutes are approved. We have September 22nd conflicts of interest.
This is Leslie, Jeffco Commissioner, conflicts of interest with some of our Jeffco departments that are being funded.
Same thing, George Marlin. We have funding for the CCHAT program, which doesn't implicate either of the two of you. And Mountain Youth isn't official, right? But it's on the agenda and we have a
On the
conflict of interest with respect to that. What did I miss?
I think that's it.
Tanya Wheeler, Advocates for Recovery Colorado, and we have GROC funding.
Oh, Tanya, you do yours on the link and then I read those out
Oh.
loud. Yeah, the verbal
Sorry.
is just the voting members. It's okay.
This is Tim Ryan, conflict of interest with Mountain Youth Network funding. Soon to be.
This is Dr. Story. JCPH receives funding as well as other Jefferson County agencies.
And then Marie Larson, Gilpin County does have a conflict of interest because the sheriff's department was a funded organization in the first cohort and they still have reporting requirements.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Usually Sandy makes that for you. Is it Lisa after? I can go. George, I can go talk.
She should be back.
And then in terms of our non-voting members, we have Amber Dower, the senior grants analyst, is an employee of Jefferson County, serves as our fiscal contact. Talia Rodriguez, the grants manager from JCPH, Jefferson County Center for Mental Health. They are a past grantee of the GROC. Erica Hag is a school board member of Clear Creek School Board, advisory board member and RFA reviewer. Sharon Hawkins is an advisory board member, RFA reviewer. She does have a position being discussed on the agenda today. Linda Behringer is from Just Living Recovery. They were an RFA applicant and she has an agenda item today for advisory board membership. Eric Barker, external relations from the Colorado Consortium. Dana DeHarris Smith, Director of Community Engagement and Development from Porchlight. Tanya Wheeler, Advocates for Recovery. AFRC is a grantee. Theodora Barchewski, grant writer for Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. No conflict of interest to report. All right, second order of governance is that I am asking for a delegation request from the full council for the executive committee to be charged with reviewing and approving a grantee playbook and an advisory committee handbook. These are entirely in draft format. I'm hoping to have them completed by the October 6th meeting for you to review. But the floor would be open for discussion now if the council would like to explore what that review looks like. It could be the executive committee reviews it and provides a recommendation to the full council. The full council has the final authority. It could just be all authority is with the executive committee. Please let me know if you have more questions about either of these documents.
I feel like my opinion as a member of the executive committee is less relevant than the opinion of people who are not on the executive committee. Anybody who's not on the executive committee want to express an opinion about whether you'd like to delegate this or have it come before you?
So could we delegate it, but then still have the full council do like final review?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So the grantee playbook is really coming out of, we have 11 contracts, but we have no policies or processes on how we monitor invoices and quarterly reporting. And so this document will have an onboarding overview of kind of like what does it mean to be a GROC awardee? What type of documents are required for invoicing? So the current grantees got the first draft of it. They still have a chance to provide feedback. The Jefferson County Finance Department has a draft right now, and I've asked them to fill in the expense reporting requirements. So if someone is invoicing the GROC for a salary, what type of documents do they need to prove that they paid that salary? Filling that in, if a grantee wants to change money between line items, it has rules like if it's under $5,000, I can approve it. If it's more than 10%, the executive committee has to approve it. If it's above 10,000, the full council has to approve it. What do we do for corrective actions and how do we document that when an awardee is not in compliance with a quarterly report or, like I said, an invoice? How do we document that? How many corrective action plans do they get before they have an award suspension or an award termination? So that's kind of like what that policy handbook will be. The advisory committee is very similar to the SOP, a lot less dense though, but it talks about rules, expectations, the authority that they do have. I did.
I watched you do.
Floor is open. Oh my God. Now I'm like worried it's my mom. She's called me God.
Chelsea, we can hear you okay.
Okay. Can't leave the room. Are there any questions or a motion to delegate authority for the playbook or the advisory committee?
I'm happy to make a motion, but I think I'm not going to as an executive committee member. So would welcome anyone who is a voting member online to make the motion. Should you like to do that?
I'll make a motion to delegate the review of the advisory and granting handbooks to the executive committee with then full council approval.
This is Kristen. I will second that.
All right, so the motion came from Janine and the second came from Kristen. And then we will vote by opposition in the chat. So just to clarify, the executive committee will do the in-depth review and then a preliminary accept or changes and then send it over to the full council for a final vote? Okay. All right, I am not seeing anything, so that has been approved. Thank you so much. So the finance report, we do have the cost amendment. And so this is the cost center is the expense reporting system for the state. So when we have our strategic plan and we award grantees, I have to report those awards and where we have our money to the state. So I did make an amendment that has the revised Denver Recovery Group budget and the added Mountain Youth Network budget. And then, of course, I don't have that up. And then I added a UNA, and this is I'm still learning the cost system and how the state wants things reported. Being a 2-year budget, I did take a conservative approach and I did report a UNA for 2 years, but every year I have a closed out expense report. So I'm still learning the best way to report finances for the state, what their preference is, 1 year, 2 year. So this is the most up-to-date amendment, and it is annotated in terms of like not obligated funds, but where we have money. Some money did have to move around, like we did pull from the treatment bucket into the harm reduction bucket to fund both of our harm reduction programs. And then some buckets have like partial funding with some unobligated money. So it looks something like this. This is the best of my knowledge right now, not being a finance person. So conservatively, we have about $4 million unobligated that we still have to give out. We did have the chat program and Advocates for Recovery closed out their first year awards under budget. So I do have to go back and figure out what money is actually being carried over. But I would say the most conservative knowledge statement at this point is $4 million to award. Any questions on this?
Just to be clear, that's what's currently in the bank. This without consideration for all of the money we expect over the next 13 years.
Yes, this is the money that is currently in the bank. There is an opportunity to call down or release more funds November 15th. But given that we have 4 million unobligated, they rather us not call down money. They want to keep the money in their bank. If the money goes to our bank, we accrue the interest, and they don't want people to do that. So the next opportunity to call down money is February, and I'm hoping to have I will have a better idea of where money is moving in cost. And then if we're in a position to do another smaller RFA where we would want to call down more money. So again, I'm keeping you guys up to date on this. This was started before my tenure, so I'm jumping into a very large budget halfway through. Any other questions?
Just really quickly for me, this isn't a question to be answered right now, but I'll be curious to hear how the other ROACs are acting, if they're accepting the state's advice to let the state collect the interest rather than us. Because if it's not in the MOU, that's what we have to do. I mean, it's clearly in our interest to have the interest. And that was not intended. So if we could that's a situation I want to have my eyes on as we think about what to do in November. I suspect there might be some other ROACs that are bold enough to say, thanks for the advice.
Yeah, I would. Oh, we just lost TVs.
Doing that, but then it's coming back. At least it did last time. And then,
Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely an option. Like I said, I'm jumping into the finance portion halfway through. And the cost center is absolutely not intuitive. So just bear with me as I learn the best practices and preferences and really what the MOU says in terms of calling down money. I think the idea is that they want people to have a plan. So as long as we have the strategic plan and we're getting ready to host an RFA, then we can pull money down. But if we're just pulling money down for the sake of accruing interest, that is not considered a best practice.
And I can understand if there's money we're not using and we don't have a plan to use.
Yeah. Yeah. They want you to have some type of plan.
A best practice by whom? I'm just thinking 4.6 plus whatever we could pull down. That's a lot of interest. That could potentially fund 1 or 2 or 3 projects moving forward. So although we don't have a plan to spend it, it doesn't mean that we can't hold it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
to Commissioner Marlin's point, let's see what the MOU says, and if it doesn't say specifically, then
yes, and I am working with Kate Neiman, the Deputy County Manager of Jefferson County, to get someone with that financing background on this project to help me dive into this. And then, yeah, to your point, when the money was called down right before the last RFA, right before I had started, it's sitting for not even a full year, accrued enough interest to pay for 9 years of a UNA. So
Yeah.
I'll see how creative I can get with a plan to call some money down and get it
Maybe,
there.
can we ask the executive committee maybe to dig into this a little bit and try to
Yeah.
come up with the right strategy? I mean, in particular, if there are other ROACs that are pulling this money down, I think we should. I mean, we may not have a precise plan to spend it, but we do plan to spend it. And yeah, I mean, 1% of $4.6 million is $46,000. So.
Perfect. So I will make a note to send to the executive committee meeting next month. And then in terms of just our expense report, this is linked in the meeting materials packet for the voting members that is in a more detailed budget. But just for the sake of transparency in this meeting, I will not read these in its entirety, but it will depict current GROC spending and the contracts that we have and what the balance is. And then the new contracts, which are obligated or not obligated. So these slides 7, 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, and 9 have not changed since last month's meeting. In 9, we did add a UNA in the Omni Institute. We did clarify how much of the budget was going to the COAG conference support. And then slide 11 has also not changed since last month. Remember that the COAG conference is October 27th, so we will not be having a full council meeting at that time for October. We'll have the executive committee meeting at the beginning of October. November 3rd is an executive committee meeting, and the next full council meeting will be November 10th. This was for the RARE conference, Rethinking Addiction Recovery. This is on October 28th. It is more practitioner focused for the work that we do in opioid settlements. Last time we checked, it was full, and I have not heard back on if that was going to open or not. So please just continue to check their website. I think that's why it's no longer available, is they did take it down. But I know some people will not show up. It says, thank you, Dana. There is a wait list for RARE. So again, if you're interested in more of that practitioner focus, the COAG conference is going to be more policy oriented, how ROACs are doing business, like GROC. All right, general updates continued. Empower Recovery was an applicant to our RFA. We did request a letter of acknowledgement for their application to the Region 6 Boulder ROAC for funding. We did delegate the authority to write LOAs to me. As a reminder, the LOA is just an acknowledgement. And so in that letter, it explains to the Region 6 Review Committee that Empower was an applicant to us. They advanced past scoring onto group discussion, but were ultimately not funded because we didn't think it was the right time in the strategic plan. We saw some similarities. We wanted to understand their business structure a little bit more. We have no opinion on whether Region 6 chooses to fund them or not. The purpose of the LOAs across all of the ROACs are for program managers to keep track of multiple award applicants. And I'm going to use Advocates for Recovery as an example. They are funded by multiple ROACs. And so how do we make sure that we're not duplicating funding awards? Or how do we monitor so that we prevent people, not saying Advocates does this, but in the world of this type of work we do, it's common for people to bill twice to two different organizations. And so how do program managers keep track of that? And that's where the letter of acknowledgement comes in. So the idea is that if, let's say we did fund Empower and then Region 6 decided to fund Empower, they would then reach out to me because of that letter of acknowledgement to ask for a description of the award and the contract to make sure that we're not duplicating services and that we can keep track of not duplicate funding. So that was just a notice. Any questions on Empower before I move on to the Stedman Group appeal letter? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Okay. The next order of business is for the voting members is that the Stedman Group did draft an appeal letter for our decision to fund Omni Institute for program evaluation instead of the Stedman Group. This letter is not made available to the public. It is included in the meeting materials packet that was bumped up in your email thread about 12:30 today. We have no legal obligation to respond, but I will go ahead and open the floor.
I read the letter and I'll just offer the perspective, as was stated when we were discussing this, that these were two very close applications. And oftentimes when you have two applicants and it's very close, the reasons aren't that compelling because they're very close. The reasons you choose one over the other. And I think that's all I feel like saying.
I guess I should be asking, do I need a motion? And Eric or Jean, if you could weigh in, do I need a motion to not respond to the letter?
No, there's no need.
Okay.
No need to take any action unless GROC wants to.
Any other comments?
No, I'm also moving forward, also comfortable moving forward with the appeal letter for the reasons that you've shared with us. I'm sorry, with the response. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't think that there's much more to say beyond what we've discussed. It's hard because it's an incredible firm and so is the firm that we selected, and it was very close. And we've had a great experience working with Stedman as well. They're an amazing firm, no question about it.
I agree.
Does anybody, there's one person in the room that's trying to get their hands on the letter. Does anybody want to hear a little bit about the content of the letter, or was it provided?
Yeah, what is it linked in?
It's included in the meeting materials packet. So in the email that I bumped up at 12:30, there's an attachment. And if you scroll down, the letter is included in that immediately after this slide.
Oh, yeah.
All right, moving on. General updates on the contracting process. The green contracts are done. The orange contracts are in progress. And then the red contracts have not yet been started. So chat is done. They are actively in their 2025-2027 contract. The Monarch Capital home purchase was routed to the county manager on September 18th. We did receive that back. They did send the two other documents we needed after the contract for the promissory note and deed of trust. So that is getting reviewed by legal this week. The UNA software is routed for signatures to the county manager. So we will be meeting that September 30th deadline. Omni Institute, I have a draft. We're almost getting ready to send that over to Omni. We are looking at an October 1st start date. Advocates for Recovery has some amendments on the agenda today. So does JCPH. And then Jeffco Sheriff, Denver Recovery Group, City of Lakewood, Recovery Works, Resilience 1220, Gilpin Parks and Rec, Mountain Youth Network have not yet been started. I did draft statements of work just to kind of help expedite that process. And I will see, is John in the room? Is he, yeah. Are you able to comment on this at all?
Hi, yeah, I'm here. Yes, my schedule has lightened up a little bit. So my hope is this week to get Omni and AFRC and possibly JCPH as close to final this week as possible. And then to turn to the items in red in whatever order you feel is best.
We'll probably go to the prevention groups because I do have those scopes of work done. The other ones are a little bit more complex. I have to work on those. Thank you for my crash course in legal contracting. You've been a great teacher so far. Next on the agenda is 2026 calendaring. And so again, in your meeting materials packet, I do have a full list, a schedule of like what 2026 would look like with the calendaring that I am proposing. But I am proposing a kind of a tiered process where the first week of the month, the advisory committee would meet with the agenda items to weigh in on the conversations and help shape what that agenda looks like. And then they make a recommendation to the executive committee, who meets on the second Monday of the month, which is the same as 2025, for a 90-minute meeting. And then same thing, they review the agenda items. We kind of have our own agenda to get some feedback. And then they make recommendations to the full council, which is the fourth Monday of the month, for 2 hours in 2025. So we would be keeping the same schedule for the executive committee and the full council that we had this year. If that Monday from 1 to 3 time works for everybody. The only thing that would be changing is pulling out the advisory committee into their own meeting, because I want to make sure that they have a space where their voice is heard and amplified, versus right now their only real opportunity is during this 2-hour meeting, which is often packed. And research shows that sometimes advisory committee members will feel like their comment doesn't contribute to the conversation, or people wouldn't care about that comment, so they're less likely to speak. So by pulling them out to have their own space, is it Erica shaking her head? Yes. All right. So this is a good idea. And then once we set the advisory committee today, I will reach out to them and kind of set up what that schedule looks like. The floor is open.
Personally, I like it.
That was George Marlin, said he liked it.
Sounds good.
Tim says it sounds good. Janine likes it. All right, so I am looking for a motion to approve the 2026 schedule.
This is Leslie. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the 2026 schedule.
Second that, George.
We'll vote by opposition in the chat or in the room. All right, so the 2026 calendar is approved. Our new website is launching October 1st, so keep an eye out for that. This calendar will get put in there. There will be a way, just like the Jefferson County Civic Plus website, you can subscribe to calendars and get calendar invites and notification and news story updates. We're using the same platform, so you'll be able to do that much nicer than the Google Calendar that we have now. So just keep an eye on that new website. I will advertise that at the November meeting. So we have our advisory committee. GROC has 3 different types of membership for our advisory committee. The first one is going to be non-discretionary appointments. These are mandated by the IGA. They are all school districts in the region and then fire districts of 25,000 people or more. And they have to be appointed by the county commissioner on GROC. There's no term limit. And then I'll talk about the other 2 on the next slide. So we do have some appointments from Jefferson County. That is going to be Commissioner Joel Kemper. She is motioning, or I guess she's just notifying everyone. Of the West Metro Fire District, the representative is going to be Kevin Mayer. And for Jefferson County School Districts, we are making Sharon Hawkins is just a discretionary member, will become the non-discretionary member. Evergreen Fire District is split between Jefferson County and Clear Creek. They currently do not have the capacity for an advisory committee member, but they are on my calendar to reach out to in 6 months. That will be a joint appointment from Commissioner Marlin and Commissioner Joel Kemper. Clear Creek School District is an appointment from Commissioner Marlin, Sunshine Sunny Vincent. And then Gilpin County School District is still in the process of finding a representative. That will be Commissioner Hollingsworth when we have a name. Yes.
A minor clarification. It may be that the Jefferson County Board of County Commissioners has delegated this to Commissioner Dahlkemper. My board has not. So this is the Board of County Commissioners appointing Sunny Vincent.
This is okay.
And just to clarify, that is in place of a school board member appointment. So
technically,
my term is over in November, so you're going to have Sunny come in instead of a new school board member.
Technically, you're a discretionary member because you weren't officially appointed, and that was my bad because I didn't know how that process worked. So you both can stay on because you're discretionary and this is non-discretionary. That would be fine.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying my term for the school board is in November, so
right.
Yeah. So I'll be done.
I don't
Chelsea.
Yes, Eric.
Just to clarify a couple things. One, I think it might be helpful if Commissioner Dahlkemper at least verifies that she's making those appointments. And then Commissioner Marlin, to your point, your board, of course, can do things however they feel is best. The way the IGA reads, it is the county representative on GROC that makes these appointments.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's why I was asking you, and I did ask Commissioner Hollingsworth as well, what your individual processes were for different types of appointments. And then that's going to get outlined in the SOP, the Standard Operating Procedures Manual, because it can be different. So Jefferson County, Leslie has full authority to appoint in this as a non-voting member. For the voting members, they do have to go through the full BCC in Jefferson County. In Clear Creek, the full appointments have to go through the full BC, but then I took down your notes of typically they would have to have a full interview with the BCC, but because this is a non-voting position, that just went through you. And then I'm still waiting for Sandy's processes.
Okay. I'm going to get my hands on IGA and notify my board of that.
Okay.
And then I'll let you know what our process is.
Okay. And then yes, Commissioner Dahlkemper, do you want to weigh in on your 2 appointments?
Yeah, I'm in full support.
That sounds good.
And then the advisory handbook will also have this kind of outlined out for you. And then the processes will be in the SOP as we're learning them and figuring them out. So the advisory committee, I'm temporarily calling GRACE, GROC Regional Advisory Committee for Excellence, because acronyms are cool. And so the discretionary individuals can be any type of community member who wants to serve and have a voice. They have to be nominated by a voting member and then voted on by all of the voting members. They have a 2-year term limit. So this is also in the meeting materials packet. I'm going to pull it up on the screen for you. Maybe. To like help me open. Oh, it keeps changing. Okay, let's go. I'm not winning out right now. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. So the people in green were approved as discretionary members before the RFA. Those people are still within their 2-year term limit. The 4 people in red are new nominations. So I am making a recommendation, but I still need a motion from a voting member to accept or not accept 1, 2, 3, 4. In the meeting materials packet, again, that was emailed out, you do have resumes for the first 3 people, Linda, Bobby, and Terry, just to kind of do some additional vetting. And then Andrea Turk is the Director of Recovery Services for JCMH. She was unofficially on the advisory committee when there was no real infrastructure to it. So she's kind of a carryover. So you do not have her resume. But again, I think being at JCMH and having the relationship that we have with them, that I'm okay with that to make a recommendation. If someone would like to take do an interview, you can send that person into advisory or into executive session. The floor is open.
Okay, so I guess I have a question about that. So
Okay.
I thought I was coming on as a part of the school board. So I thought that this, I mean, and if it's not ending, if I'm actually on for 2 years, I'm great with staying, but I didn't know, like, does it technically end when my school board term ends, or because I'm discretionary, do I?
Yeah, you can stay on for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Because of how you were brought in as a discretionary. When you started, I was not yet intimate with that process and the differences in creating some type of infrastructure. So you didn't have a formal appointment as a non-discretionary school board. So you're technically discretionary now. So you can stay for 2 years.
And I think with your work on Resilience 1220 and just your interest in the topic, like I'd love to encourage you to stay.
No, that's fine. I in my head, it was ending when my
Yeah.
term ended.
So then-
I'm fine with that.
That does kind of carry us over into the third type of advisory committee membership that the GROC has. This is entirely unique to Region 10, is that we have a place for grantees on the advisory committee. So that's something I guess that you and I could talk about, of like where you want your membership to be. I have to check with legal, is if you would stay discretionary, or because of Resilience 1220 in your position there, if you would be a grantee, if we can have both. So I'll just keep in contact with you on that. But that is, again, part of that advisory handbook that will have all of these policies and processes written out, so it's clear. Floor is still open. I'm looking for a motion to accept the recommendation for these 4 individuals to serve as discretionary members on GROC, or 3 of the 4, 2 of the 4. Where do you want me to go?
I'm not hearing anybody have any concerns, I'll move we appoint the 4 people listed on the screen to the advisory board.
This is Leslie. I'll second.
Vote by opposition in the chat or in the room. All right, so I will work with these 14 individuals who now make up GRACE, our advisory committee, on finalizing our handbook and getting that meeting schedule and get back to the executive committee and probably by November 3rd, and then the full council on November 10th. Next meeting agenda item are standard operating procedure amendments. The manual was open for public comment from July 28th to September 15th. I did link the current draft. I did link the public comment form, and then I did summarize the public comment form. So we had 6 reviewers. The voting members were given the form because there were so many amendments to help you track and comment the amendments. And then I will just go through each one. Collectively, I'll read the comments from the people who did reply, and then we'll have open floor discussion and a motion to accept or not accept or revise. So the 6 commenters, which are summarized here: Sharon Hawkins, Janine, Bud, Janie, Tori, and Kristen. Thank you so much. So the first change removed fiscal contact from the application process and delegated the program manager as oversight. Let me pull this up. Technology is just not on my side today. So George, see, it's coming, the membership section. How is that figured out in each county? So the funding mechanisms right here, when we're talking about the RFA process, it was the fiscal contact and the program manager, but we've taken the fiscal contact out to just make the program manager. There was a unanimous accept. Floor is open. I'm looking for a motion to accept.
All right, oh, you're trying to do every change in a separate motion?
Every change, I have to.
I move we accept this change.
I second it.
Opposed? All right, the second change was to take out Civic Plus and put the application platform, because we did get UNA. So Civic Plus, everything that says Civic Plus will go to a UNA. Motion to accept.
Motion to accept changes.
Dr. Ryan, second. George. Opposition. All right. The third change, funding mechanisms and solicitations. The third change delegates authority to the program manager to seek additional reviewers within reason if needed. For example, if members of the review committee need to back out of their commitment once reviews have started, the program manager will first try to reassign unscored applications within the voting members or approved advisory board membership, and then seek qualified subject matter experts familiar with GROC to ensure that scoring gets done.
Motion that we accept this change.
Dr. Ryan, motion to accept.
Second.
George, second. Opposition. Pass. All right. I did ask if there was any concerns for the rephasing on this proposed change. No one commented. RFA general funding, we included clarifying language. The specific process is used for the GROC's annual funding allocation of grant awards. A detailed process can be found in the respective funding announcement document for each funding opportunity. Important details are reiterated below. As a reminder, the SOP is a very broad, generally how we do business, but then individual RFAs might have more narrow scope or more narrow requirements. It might have slightly different eligibility. The rubric might be different. So it's still just, the word respective is included several times to just remind people that this is not the final, this is the broad general how we do business. There was a unanimous accept on the preview comments. Looking for a motion.
Motion to accept that change.
Dr. Ryan motioned, second.
Second, this is Leslie.
Leslie, second. Opposition. All right, that passed. Submission instructions. The first change clarifying language, the respective application form available on the GROC webpage contains a complete checklist of the required materials. Each funding opportunity may have unique requirements. This is kind of a build on the last one. Questions or motion?
Move we accept this change. George.
George moved.
Second.
Dr. Ryan second. Opposition. All right, that passed. Submission instructions. The second change removed Civic Plus as the application form. The application platform, unanimous accept and pre-comments. Motion.
I motion.
Dr. Ryan, second.
I'll second.
Janine, opposition. Sorry, guys, I know this is not the funnest part. Third change, added clarifying language. Late applications will not be accepted unless a technical issue is persistent across the application portal. Acceptance remains at the discretion of the review committee. There was a unanimous comment to accept.
I motion to accept the acceptance of the.
Dr. Ryan motioned.
Second.
Janine second. Opposition. All right. Submission instructions. The final change added clarifying language in items 4 through 6. There was a motion to, or a comment to partially accept by Mayor Budd. He wanted clarifying language around these vulnerable populations. So the one that is in the document is the right one. Let me see if I can find it. Submission instructions, application priorities. So right here. So it's one or more of these groups of these vulnerable populations. Motion to accept Mayor Budd's revision and the change.
Motion to accept the changes.
Dr. Ryan motioned, second.
George.
George second. Opposition in the chat in the room. All right, two-phase grant award process. This is a new draft mechanism to mitigate an influx of applications for funding as seen in the 2025 opportunity. The intent is to save applicants time and consider the capacity of the review committee by starting with a single-page template letter of intent that includes at minimum the organization name, the budget, the Exhibit E funding area, and a brief description of the program. This will ensure all members can screen every letter of intent and select who they want to invite to the full application. There's a unanimous comment to accept as written. Floor is open for conversation.
It's a great idea.
And this is Leslie. I'll
we
make a
accept.
motion to accept.
I have a question, actually. I have my
Sorry.
hand up, sorry. This is Dr. Story. Process question. Do you know if the form we filled out for comments gives us a copy, like automatically?
I can send it to you.
That would be great. I want to remember what I said. I'm feeling a little rushed or out of it. But I vaguely recall I said that I think it would be wise to just use this process. And I think one of the things I found a little like,
So it's not conditional. It's not conditional on an influx. The idea is that this is the preferred process to
Great.
mitigate the influx.
right, so
And
the
that's what
wording
you're,
in the SOP says, above where it says process, when we wish to do this, and like, so logic would say, and anticipates. So the use would be all the time, right? Like, there's no conditional use, I guess, is what I'm clarifying.
so we would not, how, in my mind, how I have this as and anticipates an influx is the general RFA was very broad. So we would anticipate an influx. But if we were to write a very narrow scoping RFA, for example, the program evaluation, we only had 2 applicants. We did not anticipate an influx in that. Then we would not have to use this. If we wanted to use the 2-phase or just the open RFA, that would be a council decision before the RFA opened.
Okay. Okay.
For what it's worth, Dr. Hawkins, I agree with what you're saying, and I think we probably should use this almost every time. I do like having the flexibility to decide not to.
Yeah, so the idea is that we want to design an RFA. I would draft the RFA, bring it to the full committee. I would make a recommendation to the mechanism. You have an option to pick whichever mechanism you want, to revise the application prompts in the RFA. All of that happens before the RFA opens.
Mm-hmm. And the voting members or executive, I don't know who would make this call. Someone is making a call. The voting members are making the call to initiate the 2-phase procedure. That's how it will go. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
So again, the voting members will tell me that they want an RFA for treatment, specifically MOUD. And so I would go draft it. If the executive committee comes first, I would bring it to them first for review. They would give me their feedback, and then it would go to the full council for final approval on the application questions, the rubric, the window of application time, which funding mechanism. The full council has the final say.
Okay.
So are you okay with this language is and anticipates?
I think when the GROC wishes to subaward and anticipates an influx of applications, a 2-phase RFA award process can be activated or something, right? Okay. I still don't love the idea, like I don't love the idea of it being a judgment call when we're trying to anticipate, just because I think it introduces some potential. Anytime there's like human decision making, obviously, like there's going to introduce some opportunity for bias or error, versus what is the problem with always doing an LOI 2-phase approach. Even if it's a small amount of applications, it still is nice to know what's coming at us so that we can, that's like the only way to anticipate an influx is to get your LOIs, because then you know probably what you're dealing with, or, you know, something very simple. Anyway, not to belabor it, I'm fine with just being able to activate it for the biggies, you know, that is totally fine with me. So I am, not going to, keep on this topic if everybody else is accepting of it.
I did pull up your scorecard, so I'll be able to incorporate your comments as we go through this now. And so I guess I know Leslie had already motioned. I guess, Leslie, I'm going to ask if you want to amend your motion to accept Dr. Story's language change.
Yes, I am comfortable with that, barring any concerns from the group.
So looking for a second.
Second. George.
George seconds. Opposition in the chat in the room. All right, that passed. The next item added clarifying languages in the RFP, items 1 through 11, notably when the GROC uses the RFP mechanism, just removing fiscal contact to the program manager. Unanimous comment to accept. This is 10. Motion.
I motion to accept.
Dr. Ryan, motion to accept. Is there a second?
This is Leslie, I'll second.
We'll put Leslie as the second. Opposition in the chat or in the room? And that passed. All right, the next one is a new, this is a new draft mechanism that can be used for immediate short-term funding requests outside of the RSA, such as spikes in community overdoses that require immediate bulk purchase of naloxone or Narcan by organizations not qualified for the bulk state fund or who have already exhausted their share. Please comment below how the utility of these funds can be clarified. Bud and Tori were the only two that commented. They did not have a comment. Dr. Story said this might be a good fit to tie to a public health emergency order or other outside metric. There are a lot of undefined words in this part. Yes, thank you. Which could leave us open to controversy. I also don't think having a form on the website is useful. Folks are going to fill that out all the time. I don't have an alternative at the moment. Lastly, probably get to put a dollar amount max on this, 100K, 50K. So I would ask that we put a pause on the emergency procurement. And then Dr. Story, I'm going to probably reach out to you separately to see if we can come up with a different draft to this. Alternatively, someone can make a motion to accept as is.
Shouldn't lawyers be writing this? I guess I'm not the right person. I'm I don't know what those words mean, but are we even allowed? I guess I assume we're allowed, or that this has been reviewed by legal. I'm really uncomfortable with just being we can vote to spend money.
Remember that, yes, we are allowed to have emergency mechanism, and we already have the money obligated to that, reported to the state. The SOP is intended to be a broad, overarching, what is this mechanism? More specific details are referenced in the respective funding opportunity. So just because it's in the SOP does not mean that the respective funding opportunity is yet available. So I need an approval in the SOP before I can draft what that mechanism actually looks like. Then that would go through its review of legal. So just because it's in the SOP doesn't mean it's open, it's not available. This is just, again, intended to be a very broad, what is that mechanism for? We can always go back and tighten it up if we want.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to help if folks end up pausing, because this is such a It is new, it's novel, it's draft. I'm happy to help with wordsmithing for both this and cross-regional collaborations, because I think I had a very similar feeling about new ways of spending money that just trying to like tighten up that language. I'm happy to help, but I'm
Yeah,
also
so-
fine if the group wants to move forward.
So what would happen is if this was approved today, then I would go make the actual like application with directions, eligibility requirements, restrictions. Then that would go through the review process, not necessarily in this order, legal, executive committee, full council. Once the full
Mhm.
council approves it, then it would be open.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Conversation, motion.
I mean, I'm happy to table those, Dr. Story, if you want more time to think about this. I'm happy to table this specific update. Does that, Dr. Chelsea?
That was based on her comments. But now that because Dr. Short, remember, Dr. Short is jumping in a little bit later than when the SOP like initially started. So now that she has that context, Dr. Short, I guess I'm looking for you. Would this be okay as written for the purpose of the SOP to be a very broad, overarching description of a mechanism that we use?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Can you turn that into a formal motion?
Sure. I'm moved to approve the emergency funding draft mechanism.
Second.
Second.
George, second. Opposition in the chat in the room. All right. So the next step for the emergency procurement is for me to go draft what this really looks like as a funding mechanism. And as I work on that, like I said, go through different review processes. It will eventually get brought to the full council. So again, just because it's in the SOP does not mean it's open. It just says that this is a type of mechanism that we do. So on that would be, I guess I did this kind of out of order. Cross-regional collaborations and special projects. Did I not? Special projects. I might have to come back to you for this. We have sole source. Two-phase. I remember going over this specifically with Commissioner Marlin, but I'm not seeing it in this draft. So
Do we want to just table this for now?
yeah, I'm going to table the cross-regional collaborations because I can't find that in the example. I'm going to go to special projects right now. But this is a new draft mechanism for funding that can be pursued outside of the RFA window within the capacity of the council. Its uses when the GROC identifies time-sensitive strategic or pilot opportunity that does not fall within the standard RFA process. Special projects may be used to respond to emerging needs, pilot innovative cross-regional collaboration, support planning and infrastructure. Basically, the project manager would identify and recommend a potential special project that could come from the RFAs, and voting members found projects that they liked and they wanted me to work on that. Or if advisory committee or current grantees have a project that they would recommend to me that the GROC pursues, I would put that in a nice little package and give it to the voting members. There was special interest projects, only one person commented. I have no suggestions for edit. Dr. Story expressed concerns about ambiguity and depending on program manager relationships with special project sponsors. Yes. Do you have more insights on this comment now that you've heard like what the purpose of the SOP is in this mechanism?
No, I mean, like, I'm good. I
Any
think
other
it's more like, how do people know to ask, right? Like, it's like kind of the
so that-
same.
Yeah,
Right,
so
go
how do you
ahead.
know to ask is like in the SOP.
Right.
We can,
Yeah.
I
Just,
think, sorry.
I just want to say the process starts with you identifying and recommending a special project. And it's like, how does that get on your radar? If that is what happens in the next phase of implementation, like protocols and applications and legal review, and that's totally fine. But it's like, if we're just saying, hey, we need this other bucket of mechanism that is all other things outside of the application window. If it's not an emergency, it's like something special, they can't wait until the normal application window, then yeah, I think we should review it and make a decision. But then why even have an application window in the first place? So I'm not quite sure, but I'm open to seeing how it plays out. Totally fine.
George.
I know other ROACs have something like this, and my understanding is that the RFA process can generate a bunch of content that not all of which can be acted on during that process if we're trying to be timely and effective. And so that's one place where ideas might come from. But I would like for us to have the option if a good idea comes up to not have to wait for what could be 12 plus months to fund something that's meaningful, that's a good idea. I think as long as we do so, consider that in a way that's transparent, I am comfortable. I know like it's not a guarantee that we'll do another RFA even in 2026. And Chelsea's here shaking her head. And so I think like when you think about that slow process of doing the broad RFAs, I think it's important to have an ability for us to decide to fund something that matters in between.
Right.
With the recent school shooting, you know, there might be organizations that, you know, especially preventable, increased risk of, opioid use or drug use or something like that amongst teenagers who were in Evergreen School when this happened, like if there's some sort of prevention thing that you might do. So it's in response to something that happened that you may not want to be.
I guess I don't see the difference between that and emergency funding. I get the idea totally, and I'm all about it because I mean, if you look at foundation funding, there's always this like random bit, right? That's like a smaller dollar amount that's always on. It's an always on application, and I theoretically support that, so I'm fine moving forward. I get it. It feels like sometimes even in the review process and still kind of taking issue with the fact that just because you work for Jefferson County, I can't comment on any Jefferson County applications from a government agency. Like we're very cautious about a lot of things, and then opening up this ambiguity, I'm just want to treat it with that same, when we get to that point, that same level of transparency and caution, So
yeah, so that conflict of interest was also only for that specific RFA. That's not an all the time
right
issue.
Great.
In the interest of time, I am looking for a motion. It could be to table or pause to pass. to try it out one time and then revisit it?
I mean, I think we need this. And I think that this won't negate the fact that any funding that's considered will be considered in a live recorded meeting, and conflicts of interest will be managed in that meeting. And so I'm going to make a motion to approve this change.
I agree. I'll go ahead and second as well. And I
George?
also think that
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to, for the meeting minutes, George motioned it and now we're on Leslie.
thanks. I'll go ahead and second that. And I very much appreciate Dr. Story's comments. And I think that we can factor those in as we move forward and, always loop back to those issues of transparency and accountability. But I think having this flexibility is critical for the reasons that have been discussed, ranging from tragedies that have come up like the Evergreen shooting, or our responsiveness to new trends perhaps that we hadn't anticipated, and those other kinds of reasons. But I do think we should watch it and make sure that we're being responsive and we're being transparent as we do the work as we have been.
Motion is to accept. It's been seconded by Leslie. Opposition in the chat or in the room? All right, this is passed. And then the last one is the accessibility statement. Motion.
This is Leslie. I'll move to accept.
Thank you. Second.
This is Sarah Story. I'll second.
Thank you. Opposition in the chat in the room? And that has passed. Thank you all. Sorry, I know that was a lot, but because there wasn't enough people who commented beforehand, we had to go through each one. Mountain Youth Network had a conditional award, and so they had reviewed on an itemized budget and how they handle culturally relevant programming. These are included in the meeting materials packet that was emailed to voting members, and that is scrolled down. I'm not going to pull that up because those are application documents. Floor is open for discussion.
Let it be noted.
Oh,
George and
Dr. Ryan are stepping out, just so it's noted. As long as you don't talk.
That's what I do in board meetings when I have a conflict.
This is the one I don't really have a conflict, but I've been not voting. You want me to leave?
So Janine doesn't really have a conflict, but not voting. I'll defer to Eric on her ability to comment on this.
And doesn't have a conflict because
Janine is not actually employed by the county.
she would have the discretion to certainly stay and comment in that case.
This always confuses me because I am employed at the county, but not with public health. But so then
So you, in this specific award, you do. But if you don't want to leave, you
Fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Floor is open for discussion or a motion.
This is Leslie. I so moved on MYN conditional award review regarding the itemized budget and culturally relevant programming.
Second.
This is Barb Weinstein with Human Services. I'll second.
Opposition in the chat and in the room. I'm not seeing anything. All right, so this has been approved. Let me go get that. All right, you can come back. All right, so again, I just want to give a huge shout out to Advocates for Recovery. Again, they truly are paving the way in opioid settlement dollars. They are one of our most complex awards. They have a lot of moving parts. And so their 2024-2025 award is currently undergoing an audit by the Jefferson County Finance Department to help inform the grantee playbook of what information do we need, what kind of guidelines do we have to really keep our awardees in a path moving forward. So as soon as I get that back, the results will be shared with the executive committee and full council. And then we do need a contract amendment. The initial 2024-2025 award did have a very explicit line item that they needed to purchase a 15-seater van. In March, they purchased an 8-seater van. We do not have policies written down on how they should have reported that. Should they have asked for permission, asked for forgiveness? It just kind of, the van was purchased and the box was ticked. So in doing their 2025-26 award, we do need to make an amendment for that. And then they have their final line item budget because we closed out the 2024 award and then we rolled over the funds and they created a specific line item budget. So both of those things need to be approved by the full council. Floor is open for discussion or motion.
What was the cost difference between the 15-seater and the 8-seater?
So they did not have a price quote on the 15-seater. That's what they wanted to get, but they couldn't find, if I remember correctly, they could not find a 15-seater van in the price budget that also had the 4-wheel all-wheel drive. And so that's why they went with the 8-seater van. I believe the line item budget was $50,000 and they spent just under $48,000. Eric, would Tanya be allowed to comment?
It's up to the board. There wouldn't be any prohibition on her doing so.
I think that'd be great. If there's anything that Tanya wants to share, I would support that.
Tanya, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, everybody. What Dr. Chelsea reported is correct, that in order for us to get a 15-passenger van, it would have cost a lot more than $50,000. We could purchase that, but we would not have been able to have 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, which would help in those mountainous ranges in the GROC region. And so we chose to purchase a Kia Telluride, which seats 8 people, and it does have all-wheel drive and works much better in the snow and the terrain.
So there is 2 parts here. We can do them 2 separately or together. And one is a motion to approve the 15-seater van to the 8-seater van. And then the final line item budget for the 2025-2026 award.
Why don't I go ahead and, barring any other questions or comments, I'm happy to make a motion for each item. So I'll move for the approval of the amendment from the 15-seater van to the 8-seater van.
Second. George.
Opposition in the chat in the room. All right, that passed. And then the second part. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make another amendment regarding in support of the final line item budget.
As an approval?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Is there a second to approve the line item budget?
I'll second.
Janine, second. Vote by opposition in the chat and in the room. And that passed. All right. Next order of business is going to be the Jefferson County Public Health Award. Has a conditional award. There is, we're not clear. Jean and I are not clear based on the group discussion from June 23rd if the entire JCPH award has to wait for the needs assessment, or if the Jefferson County programming can start before the needs assessment. So there is a justification, again, included in the meeting materials packet for why Jefferson County Public Health programming should start in Jefferson County before the needs assessment in Clear Creek and Gilpin is started and completed. Floor is open for discussion. They are requesting $347,380.26 to be expensed before the needs assessment in Gilpin and Clear Creek.
I remember reading that. The concern is if we don't do it, then there'd be a disruption in services for Jeffco, right?
Yes. Yes, that is correct. There would be a disruption. I mean, there's more to it, but. I'm looking for comments or a motion to approve the programming. This is essentially the statement of work and budget that would happen before the needs assessment. This does allow us to get into further into contracting. John, are you clear on whether the MOUs needed to be included in the initial contract?
So, no, I believe we're clear on the MOUs. And
Okay.
I've some inquiries. I do think it sounds like they're partially drafted and not yet fully executed. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Got
Is
it.
that Dr. Ryan's understanding?
The Clear Creek one is drafted, it's awaiting approval by the board.
Okay, yeah, the Clear Creek one is done, waiting approval by the board. Marie, do you have any update on the Gilpin County MOU?
Anticipate that on the 7th.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not that I know of at this time.
Questions, motion?
Everything that's being proposed is like supportive of the, I'm just trying to make sure I remember. No, what's going on. But so it's to support like Jeffco, which is already happening, and then the later expenditures are more the expansion, which is what we were worried about, just not duplicating services. So I don't see any reason why Jeffco can't get their funding to do what they're already doing or need. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
It just seems justified to me. I just support it. And I was waiting for Commissioner Dahlkemper to say something, and now I'm realizing she has a conflict.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Um,
Dr. Story and Commissioner Dahlkemper have a conflict of interest here. It would be up to the voting members if they wanted to ask Dr. Story more specific questions about this award. In the interest of time, I'm looking for some type of motion. That would be from the Gilpin folks. Marie, you are eligible to make a motion.
I have one other quick question. Is there a scheduled like assessment or anything that's started? Is there?
No, the contracts have to be executed. Yeah, the contract has to be executed first, and then they can finish their RFA for the external evaluation team. Then the evaluation would start in Clearcreek and Gilpin, and they anticipate that being done in February of 26. So this is just how Jean writes the contract that basically says we can release this much money for this scope of work and this line item budget before the needs assessment is done. The conditional award requires that the results of the needs assessment be presented to the council before the rest of the budget is approved or otherwise amended.
I mean, this just makes sense to me that we would invest in continuity now while that evaluation is taking place.
Dr. Story does have her hand up to comment. That again is up to the board. So Marie, Heidi, Janie, Tori, Under Sheriff Demo, if you guys would like to hear from her.
I'm
That is
answering the
entirely-
question about the evaluation because there's just a little bit of, I just want to correct the answer that we have already identified and started the payment process for an evaluator because JCPH's budget is going to support that the needs assessment is going to help support the needs assessment. So we're able to onboard that person or that firm already and identified and went through all that, which should expedite the needs assessment getting to results. So I just wanted to clarify that we have already identified the vendor and it's just a matter of the MOUs getting signed before they can begin work, but they have been paid their down payment with
Thank you.
our budget. Yes, of course.
You know, I feel like I should have made a motion 60 seconds ago. I'm just going to move we approve the early expenditure for the Jefferson County Public Health application.
George made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Tori. Go ahead, Greg.
I'm gonna go with Under Sheriff Demo because that's who I heard first was second. Opposition in the chat and in the room. All right, and that has been approved. Thank you. Jean, did you have any other questions about contracting this while we're on the topic?
No, I don't think so. I think that resolves the main question. We can work through any remaining details offline.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, last order of business is the RFA analysis and strategic plan revisions. This is roughly 60 pages. I do apologize in advance that it is so dense. A lot of it really is internal for me to understand what happened, why it happened, and how I need to adjust moving forward for the council. But there are some points of interest in here. And if there's anything that people really want to know about, the first half starts with just a satisfaction survey between the grantees who had to apply. Are they satisfied with the application process? What was their feedback? The biggest takeaway from that is that we need a new platform. Civic Plus was not great, which we've already corrected with the purchase of a UNA. There's a satisfaction survey from the reviewers and what that process was like. Generally, it was good, but we do have some room for improvement. Notably, we used an analytic type rubric, and it seems that people want more of like a single point rubric. Some other feedback that came from that was the individual scoring versus group scoring. Round one used group scoring, and there was a lot of feedback of dissent around that. So the second cohort used individual scoring. And I think where we're ending up is somewhere in the middle. So something like where we have a cluster of applications, maybe it's 5 treatment applications assigned to the same for reviewers. They score individually and then they come together to create a ranking. That's about as far as I've gotten in that. I will come back to the table when we get to the next RFA with some ideas, but something in the middle between this individual and group consensus, balancing out subject matter expertise. In terms of the actual descriptives, there were 51 new applications with the 2 renewal applications, $38 million requested in funding, created a relatively competitive opportunity with a 30% chance of funding. Then there is a breakdown of how much money was being asked roughly. Oh, you can't even see my screen. Thanks, guys.
We can see it.
I'm
We
weird
can
looking
see-
at it on my computer, sorry.
Oh, so online you can see it, but in the room you
We
can't.
can see drug checking and peer support personnel. Is that not the right one?
Oh, no, that's not the right one.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm like going through that. I was like on the RFA, the actual analysis.
We're tracking though. We're tracking.
Let me try sharing this way. Okay, can you see the RFA analysis? It says descriptives.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, this goes over the descriptives, talking about how many applications were received per funding area, roughly how much money was asked, target populations. It goes through the service areas. I think we can definitely come up with a rubric, single point system that assigns if they only serve 1 county, if they serve 2 counties, if they serve 3 counties, to give that some type of weight. So that's something I'll dig into a little bit more. And then going through the review process, I did, again, some advanced statistics, justification of the top 12 and kind of why they advanced. There were concerns about, I didn't go into this deep enough during the RFA review process. So that is elaborated on in this document right here, talking about the strategic strengths of the top 12, this heat map. Again, the biggest issue with discerning the top 12 was that we didn't have 100% response rate, and I gave myself a 2-day window. So to do some very advanced statistics by hand to figure out what the top 12 were. So like U-turn, for example, was only scored twice, but then other applications were scored 4 times. So how do I balance those out? And this kind of explains what those statistics were and how the decision was made to move it up to the top 12. I think transitioning into that 2-phase RFA process, though, with the letters of intent will help ensure that we have a 100% response rate. I really don't like doing stats by hand. And then this shows what the strategic plan is. There is, let me go back because I know the graphics in the report are not great. So I did try to link full graphics for people.
They show up really good in the Word version. You can zoom all the way in, it's just fine.
Oh, I'm not even in the right document. The full visual. But they are linked to show what the strategic plan looks like now that we have some people filled in for Denver Recovery Group. Recovery, we have Recovery Works, AFRC, and Monarch is filled in there. In prevention, Gilpin County Parks and Rec, Resilience 1220. And then I separated it out by county. So we can see like where the gaps are. It looks like we have prevention pretty well covered in all 3 counties. Harm reduction is covered in all 3 counties. And then if you go into the gaps, so this shows you where money is allocated but not necessarily obligated. So under treatment services, expand availability of treatment for OUD and co-occurring substance use disorder mental health conditions, including MAT. Address the needs of person with OUD, expand telehealth, and then just the general fund is that we have roughly $900,000 allocated, but not obligated here. We have almost 1.7 million for specifically transportation to treatment or recovery programs. I think we should revise this in the strategic plan because we're funding transportation services through other programs, but it's not like we're funding the RTD system specifically. So that, I mean, that's 1.7 million that we can reallocate in the strategic plan. Prevention misuse of opioids, we have almost 700,000 in our general fund. So again, just kind of pointing out the gaps. There is a big gap in workforce development because the strategic plan was made before I started my tenure. I'm not entirely clear what was meant by enhancing the workforce development. Let me go back. Here's a cool map that shows you where funding is in Region 10. The bigger the dot, the bigger the funding. So you can see this whole south part of Jefferson is not, we don't have funding there. And we could come up with some reasons why. I know that there is some prevention programming in Littleton that did apply for funding, but they didn't have a regional reach, and that's why they weren't recommended to move forward. I did connect them with the Littleton Opioid Council. So Littleton does have their own funds that they kept. I did connect them to see if there's an opportunity for funding there. But just something to think about in terms of regional where funding is. Again, this goes over by group. Here's a cool pie chart that tells you how much is going into each area. It's 25% harm reduction, 31% recovery, 3% prevention, 11% planning, and 30% treatment. This does not include the unobligated funds. This is just where we currently are allocated and obligated. I did compare the funded to unfunded applications and reasons for not funding applications. So there is a chart that compares funded application, but they're not in the plan. They were funded and they were in the plan. And then they were not funded. They were not in the plan. There is no statistical significance in the correlation between being funded and being in the strategic plan. If we were following the strategic plan to its core, we would want to see that significance. So that does suggest that we should consider revising our strategic plan based on the applications that we saw in the areas of interest. The most common reason for not funding an application had to do with implementation and planning concerns, budget and cost concerns, and geographic or regional relevance. So I think that's something that we can do on our side in terms of structuring the application prompts to guide applicants into really explaining what their implementation plan is, what their sustainability plan is, how the budget narrative. We can do a lot better asking questions there. And then again, just going into the strategic plan, if we fill in all RFAs, like what does that look like? I think the biggest thing to take away here is that the initial strategic plan was not aligned with the cost allocation guidelines. And so we may have used like transportation as a funding area, but in cost, it's labeled differently. So I did my best to align the strategic plan with those cost labels just to get ultimate clarity and alignment. And then that's like where we get the gaps. And then it's unclear what the council implies by workforce development. So if we look at the planning and coordination bucket in cost exhibit E, workforce development, there's no language in cost that aligns with the areas that were described in the strategic plan. And since I was not here during that conversation, I don't want to make the assumption that I know what you mean by that. So in the interest of time, we're not going to talk about this today, but I'll start this conversation in the executive committee on October 6th of what was meant by workforce development in the initial strategic plan, in terms of what is the cost center area that aligns most with that. And then we'll take that feedback and bring a revised strategic plan to the full council for approval. And then I just did some kind of like plays of what the strategic plan would look like if we filled in some applications that were not funded. So again, if you look online, it's definitely a lot easier to read in the Excel online. What applicants like fill that area. We only have 8 minutes in the meeting, so I do want to pause here. This is just an initial presentation, but see if there are any questions, if there are areas in the RFA analysis that people want to dive into more directly at the November 10th meeting. The executive committee specifically, if there's any specific areas we can target in the October 6th meeting.
I'll just share what I'm most curious about is both what the applications, how the applications map to our strategic plan and what they said about where there are gaps in our strategic plan. And then kind of the inverse, like what were we able to get funded? And what do we still need to go try to get funded? And how do we write better RFPs to fill in the gaps, whether they're in types of service or geographic or other equity considerations. That's the piece of this that I'm most interested in focusing on. And I'm really also excited to see that you're really focused on how the process can be improved, because there's some really good nuggets in there around that.
Yeah, those are answered in here. If you do want to take a look, a more in-depth review, I do answer those questions in the report, but I will have a more directed overview of that for the executive committee meeting. Anyone else comment, questions, concerns, things they would like me to focus on at the next meeting? All right, then I will go ahead and close the meeting. I have a couple points of interest, so I'll send the executive committee your draft agenda for review. And then remember the October 27th full council meeting is canceled for the COAC conference. The November 3rd meeting is for the executive committee virtual. Right now, we don't have an agenda for that. And then our next full council meeting will be November 10th. That is a little bit of a sparing agenda. So I was thinking Common Spirit has a community assessment on mental health and substance use. So I was thinking that we could have them come present on those results if there is any feedback on that agenda item. And that can come at the October 6th meeting.
My only feedback on the idea around November 10th is that it could be worth our time to ask the Jefferson Center to be prepared to also offer comments if that's a setting just to hear what's going on with mental health and substance use. I would think they would be the organization most well-positioned, maybe more well-positioned than Common Spirit to really comment.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say Common Spirit shouldn't. I'm just trying to say they should be invited.
Yeah. So I can definitely invite JCMH for comment on that and feedback on their results and what that means for the Region 10 Council. Otherwise, thank you everybody for a great meeting and during our technical challenges. Remember, we're going to be in Gilpin on November 10th. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Anybody want to Palisade?
Thanks for keeping us moving forward.